And all right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My guest today is, I am Clay Douglas. I am the Free American. My guest today is Polly Holton. And her website is War for American Revolution. War for American Revolution. And I just shared Bye Bye American Pie from your website with the people in my chat room. And I've got your website up, and let me share this right from the top left-hand corner, so I know it's got to be important. Right below, talking about the smart meters, which we will talk about. We are American patriots. It is God, country, and family that we fight for. It is with our voices united as one that they will know we will be heard. It is with us standing together, shoulder to shoulder, that they will know we will and can not be ignored. We must stand up, speak up, and tell them loud and clear. If they will not represent us, if they will not protect us, then we must vote them out. Say it with your voice, say it with your actions, and say it with your vote. We will not take it anymore. We want our country back. We will take our country back. Now, John A. Holton. And tell me about you, first of all. How did you become a patriot? With me, it was Waco. That woke me up. And I swore, as I watched this happen on CNN and ABC and NBC, that I would never sit back and watch something like that happen to the American people on the television again without getting involved, without trying to do something. I was totally angry. Where was the Texas Rangers? Where was the Department of Public Safety? Where was the Highway Patrol? Where was the sheriff? Why did they let them kill 19 little children to save them from a child molester? What woke you up, Polly? Hey, tell me about you. Where are you from?
Well, Clay, John and I are both from Michigan, and we started out, I questioned 9/11, what happened with that, and I was very upset at what happened with how that was all taken care of, swept beneath the carpet, and how buildings suddenly came down. There were so many questions involved with that, and my son Fiesta was killed in 2001 to a driver hit it, and nothing was done to that person, and I just kept looking and looking for things, and it just seems like more pieces of puzzles were going out there, and different things were coming up. And then my mother died in 2007, and was the nursing home, and they didn't do anything about that, and they tortured her, and I should have been in jail. But, you know, John and I do a lot of research. We do a lot of talking to people about it, and what's going on, and now the smart meters on the 21 stuff's taking on, and it's not into it. It's so much our government people don't know about that they really need to look into. There's so many things that are going on. John, you want to add?
Well, the main issue that I have, Clay, is
Hi, John. I'm sorry, we hadn't met, but hello. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, is that when my mother-in-law died of vulnerable health abuse, I found the honestly she was murdered. We had the patient advocacy through a power of attorney who was taking care of her, and a nurse declared herself a patient advocate through medical advocate, and decided that she should take charge, and she caused her to ask and die a terrible overdose. And our Attorney General didn't want to say, senators and congressmen didn't want to participate. Prosecutors did not want to go ahead and prosecute, so she had no work. She had no value. She was holding the guy anyway. So that is what brought us into holding him accountable and proceeding with every possible issue we can to make a difference for all the people, because it's the Constitution and our right, okay, that we must protect, and each other, because they're not going to do it. They look out for their own special interest, their own party agenda, or whoever can influence their own future. They do not look out for we the people, and that is why we got started in this.
And it's not because they're stupid, as Joe McCarthy once said about the communists, and Assistant Secretary of Defense James Forrestal disagreed with him. He said, no, consistency is not the mark of stupidity. If they were just stupid occasionally, they'd make a mistake in our favor.
The problem with all this is they take advantage of you. If you don't say no, they assume you're saying yes, and they run right over you. They will destroy the Constitution if you don't speak up and demand that you get to keep your AR-15s and 30-round magazines. Because next thing you know, it'll cost a fortune to buy one bullet that you can put into your rifle, and you're allowed to shoot one deer per year or whatever. And the Second Amendment is not about deer hunting or rabbit hunting or turkey hunting. It's about protecting us from enemies, foreign and domestic.
And John, we have been set up. When the Bolshevik Revolution took over, murdered the Tsar and his family, they went on to confiscate the guns. They killed the police officers who confiscated the guns after they brought the guns in. And I think they have set us up for that same scenario here. They're setting us up for a civil war. They're trying to get pit us against the police. They're trying to take the sheriffs out. And they've issued, Homeland Security has purchased millions of rounds of ammo, more than enough to put 5 bullets into every American here. And they have really refined the art of slavery. I tell people, they've refined the art of slavery to the point the slaves don't know they're slaves. I'm not a slave. I can go out and get my pickup and go get a beer.
That's right. People don't understand. If they go through with all this taking assault weapons anyway, what will they do next? They want to get rid of our guns, so we can't do anything about it. And that's the whole situation with this murder. They want to put all these on and to be control of our lives. And you see the Agenda 21 things going on every day and people in our economy, in our environment. This is exactly what's happening.
Now, go ahead, sir.
You hit it on the nail head when you started talking about the slavery, because this is exactly what they're doing. They're going to take control of everything you own. They're going to make you go ahead and put everything in a debit card, in a bank, and every transaction that you do is going to be barcoded. And everything you own in your home and your life is going to be barcoded. So when you can no longer afford to be free, okay, and support the corporation, they will be able to hunt you down because you won't be able to buy a candy bar, a Tootsie Roll, a glass of bottled water from somewhere without them knowing who you are, where you're at, and how to get a hold of you to pay your debt to the corporation.
2013, they've solved that problem. It's in the health care bill that Obama put out. You just put that chip in your hand there and wave it over the Walmart counter and pay for your purchase the way the German soldiers do in Alamogordo.
Exactly. That's what's coming up if we let it happen. But from what I understand, they're going to start with people with implants and stents and things like that, and handicaps. We're going to be starting very soon on that, from what I understand, hearing from people.
Yeah, what they did to your mother, they tried to do to mine. She went into the hospital, had a triple bypass, and they put her into a nursing home when she got out of the hospital. And I went to see her, and she was drooling, couldn't communicate. I went to the doctor, and I said, "What's the matter with her? This is not from the operation. Oh, we've got them on drugs." The biggest enemy that we've got here, the ones that sponsored the Super Bowl, are the drug companies selling you something with a 200,000% markup. They got more of a markup on Luvox or Valium than they do cocaine or heroin, which the elite control too. But they are drugging us, and they are killing the older folks. Why? Because they don't want to pay out that Social Security after 65. They are poisoning us, and I don't know, and the IQ level of the American people is dropping like a rock, and frankly, I don't know There's not just one thing you can put your finger on. We've got chemtrails, we got pharmaceuticals, and we got genetically modified food. They're feeding you in the cafeterias that rats won't eat genetically modified food. So
there's so much of it going on. If people just actually start putting, like I said earlier, putting pieces of puzzle together about what's coming from the sky, what's the fluoridated water, the vaccine, and now this. I mean, you just add two and two together. You can figure out exactly what's going on. So this here.
Now, you say on your website, and we've got that linked on all of the shows right below your name. We've got that linked, but you talk about voting these people out. Now, I've had really a lot of experience in this. I worked with a gentleman that was running for president in 1996, Charles Collins, and he was the first Republican to sign up for the presidency, and he was telling people that we could buy back the Federal Reserve, according to their own charter, wipe out a $6 trillion debt, which has jumped to 16 now, and all we needed to do it, and would have solved almost all the problems America's got today, because all the wars are started by banksters who fund both sides. And he didn't get to be president, and you probably never heard of him, because every time he got up to speak in between Bob Dole or Pat Buchanan, every cameraman on stage turned the cameras off, pointed them at the ground, and took a smoke break.
Right. That's just what's happening. That's what they want to do.
Well, you know, Clay, this is the one thing. It's always everything is going to be about money and control to keep the money. And you're going to have the whole world revolves around the debt owed to the banksters, okay? The Federal Reserve is nothing but a huge credit card for our legislators to go ahead and celebrate spending money on whatever frivolous or maybe even legitimate cause, but they do not have any restraint, and they're going to go ahead and destroy America with the debt. And as your colleague tried to emphasize, is that this is what's killing America. They have no restraint, and we're not holding them accountable. Because if we, the people, must rise up again and say, you represent me, you represent us, and you have a duty to protect us. And if you don't want to do that, step down and give that out to somebody who does want to. And this is what we have to do. It's the only way we can take our country back and have a sovereign country again.
Now, if the American people, we can't vote for anyone, because the people, the bankers, bought Reuters News at the turn of the century. The Rothschilds bought Reuters. They own ABC, they own NBC, they own CNN. You know, and so anyone they tell you that anyone they feature on their television or their radio commercials on Clear Channel, then you don't know who is running. Every one of the politicians that we got in Congress right now are sold out. The Republicans and the Democrats are simply two wings of the same bird, and that bird is a global vulture. How do we compete with that? How do we deal with that?
Well, go ahead, Pauline.
Well, that is very hard, because we've talked to them and ran with a bunch of good people, and it's just stalemate. They're not going to get in there unless they really try to make a difference and get their voices heard, and a lot of them need to do that. People don't know who they are anymore. Okay.
The banksters hide behind the Jews. They will sacrifice their own people as quickly as they'll sacrifice Christians. And right now they're trying to get us into a war with Muslims. How many million Muslims are there out there? I mean, who benefits from this? The bankers benefit from this. All the wars that we fought in this last decade have been against countries that didn't want to go along with the central bank. The central bank is our biggest problem, and you point this out on your website. I was just listening to a gentleman on your website, Bill Still. I just played some clips of that before you came on here.
You see, the whole critical issue is that people, the average person, doesn't know about any of this. And the few that do start to glean some of it say, well, there's nothing I can do. But you can make a difference. It's just like the smart meter issue. We now have the MPSC case U17053 with the opt-out. That it started with 2 people, Pauline and I, and a couple others going to Oak Park in the Shelby Township. And we ended up with 22 resolutions and moratoriums for cities and townships and 2 counties. Just a few people going from city to city and township to township can change the government's actions in their state. And this is an example of what could happen as far as every state and the federal government. We had 3 gentlemen running for governor in Michigan, and because of the tragedy of my mother-in-law, and they wouldn't represent us and protect us and her, we put a box in the back of my avalanche and it said vote them all out, okay, and hold them accountable, vote them all out, and we listed their names, Mike Cox, Mike Bishop, Mike Richard, on the cross, plus some other representatives. And those 3 gentlemen did not get elected governor in Michigan. Because everywhere we went, at Tea Party groups or at different meetings in Lansing, we were there with the truck, with flags flying, and we believed we had an influence on those 3 gentlemen not getting elected. Your voice can make a difference if you stand up and speak up and hold them accountable.
That's right.
What they don't say.
They operate by consensus. That means they get up and tell you what their plans are, and if you don't protest, and if you don't stand up and say, wait a minute, what communist wrote this bill, then you don't, they consider you part of the consensus.
That's right, Clay. Your audience needs to stand up and have their voices heard, just like John was saying. The more people know about it, the smart meters, Agenda 21, the new stuff that's going on with education and environment, people will be able to see what's going on, and I think they will do something.
You know, they used to use the phrase a silent majority. The thing is, if the silent majority, that's we the people, start speaking up and holding accountable, we can pull the bottom structure of that pyramid of the Illuminati out from underneath them, and those gangsters and all that will collapse and fall down among the normal average people once again. Because they rely on us not saying anything, not doing anything to disrupt their agenda. They rely on us being the silent majority, passive sheeple, okay, just going about our business, struggling to survive, and ignoring, those people on the high pyramid who couldn't care less about us until we stopped providing for them.
You know, you mentioned slavery. I mentioned slavery, and I think we've actually been slaves for about 100,000 years. We were slaves in Egypt. The Bible does, a history book tells us about that. We walked out of Egypt and crossed the Caucasus Mountains and turned left and went and settled Germany and Europe. But the Bible told us that we would forget who we were. We would forget what we were supposed to be doing. And that's why there's an attack on Christianity right now. I mean, you can't call it Christmas anymore.
Well, you know, Clay, the thing you got to do is call it Christmas every chance you can. This is a problem. I called on up the judge involved in case U17053, and I asked him about some cases that I wanted to address. And he told me, he said, you can do anything until somebody says you can't.
Until they override you.
You know, and that's the whole point.
That's
And
right.
even if they tell you you can't, you have to ask them what authority you have over the sovereignty person to tell me that I can't do it. And if you repeatedly do this to people instead of letting them shut you down because their voice is louder or they stand taller than you, you just go back to the Constitution. We are the only country in the whole world that has a document that says we can do anything and say anything until it steps on the rights of other people protected by the same document.
And if we the people, so people stand up and voice your opinions every time you can in town halls, anywhere, because they took an oath to serve and protect you. And they should abide by that. You have to make them accountable.
One of the reasons, the reason I started this whole thing was because of what happened at Waco. And I did two things. I started the Free American Magazine and this radio show because that was the best way at the time of getting this information out and letting people know what the heck is going on here. And I also formed the militias. I'm given credit by this by the Southern Poverty Law and the ADL. ADL listed me in Armed and Dangerous brochure that they put out about 94. And they tell you that I started the militias. Well, they're right. I brought Mark from Michigan, Mark Cornkey, down to Albuquerque. He spoke before about 500 people at a Wake Up America meeting. And I started the Free American to promote that meeting. And I did start the militias, but they tried to make it sound like that was a bad thing. Oh, Clay Douglas started the militias. Yes, I did. They just don't mention that I did it in the governor's office. Governor Gary Johnson, he was in my home. He and every legislator in New Mexico got copies of my magazine for 10 years. And you had the Michigan militia there. You probably still do. And I don't believe we did anything wrong by starting the militias. We did exactly the right thing, exactly what they're afraid of, and that's why they've gone out of their way with these Southern Poverty Law and ADL and B'nai B'rith and AIPAC to demonize us. That's why all your Jewish senators who are bought and paid for by the bankers take your guns away now, and this is, I mean, the Second Amendment is basically what protects the rest of the amendments, including the First. And if we give up our guns here, folks, they'll take you off and slaughter you. I've got the list of how many people were killed around the world. It's almost 1 billion people killed around the world in this century by their own governments after they initiated gun control. Now, I think what's happening here, what we're facing here, is Obama stroke of a pen, law of the land. He's going to ban guns the same way they made it illegal for you to have gold. They took your gold away at $16 an ounce, immediately upped the price to $32 an ounce. And if he signs it, and I've got some experience in being made a criminal since I did time 25 years ago for possession of marijuana in Texas when it was a life sentence. Potentially a life sentence, 99 years. And I've told people if a man with a badge can come up and say, "What's that I smell? Yeah, is that marijuana? Hey, you're going to jail. You're living in a police state." And they're going to do the same thing with guns. Of course, that's why William Randolph Hearst got that big castle up on top of that, because he took away the competition to the plastics industry and the lumber industry, and eliminated $1 billion crop from our farmers, which is the first people that they go after when a communist regime takes over. Now, what do you think? I mean, this is Clinton's quote, "Stroking the pen, law of the land, pretty cool, huh?" If Obama makes guns illegal, or our Congress, sold-out Congress, passes a law trying to register and or confiscate our guns, what do we have to do? We've got another civil war, and I think they're setting this up purposely. This is why they're arming the police. This is why they've got the bullets in the Homeland Security, more enough to kill every person in America. What do you think? And again, the only answer I see is what you did in Michigan, and that's the militias working for the governor, working for the sheriffs. We do have Sheriff Richard Mack out there that's organized the constitutional sheriffs. What about it, guys? Do we have some hope here? Now, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think that people have to get out and talk to their sheriffs and things like that to inform them what their actual duties are. And a lot of them are swept underneath the carpet, and that's what we have to do. There's a lot of people in Michigan that are already starting to do that, to notify the sheriff department exactly what their duties are supposed to be for the people and who they were elected by. And people have a tendency to forget that, and who they can actually go to. And I think that what needs to be done, we need to get involved more with our local issues to get things done.
Now, there's one. Go ahead, John.
Well, Clay, the main issue here is, like I said, they don't claim that your rights are important because it's not a big enough issue for them to address. We had Candace Miller, okay, from Michigan. I asked her about doing something to go ahead to protect senior citizens from the government end-of-life care in regards to my mother-in-law's death. And she says, "I make laws, I don't enforce them." She couldn't afford a 50-cent phone call. She couldn't afford to take the time to write a letter, okay, to the Attorney General's office, to the government, or any of that. And this is the issue. The government officials look at this as, I have my own agenda. And if yours, that's we the people, fits in with mine, I'm on your side. But until they do, I'm looking out for my own special interests. And this has to do with the sheriffs, this has to do with the governors, and all of them. When it comes politically efficient, expedient for them, then they'll go ahead and help you. But until then, you have no value, you have no worth, unless you're contributing to their cause with money or effort to prosper them.
Well, just like Clay's a perfect example of what happened in Illinois. These two young ladies that were arrested because they wouldn't take the smart meters. Sheriff's Department came in there. They didn't have consent of the property owner. They didn't have a court order. They didn't have probable cause. But they went in there and forced these people to take that meter.
They arrested people for videotaping it,
exactly,
and interfering with the police officer, which was a legal person to do. And this is the issue. They think they are above the law because they're in the government.
Yeah, but sheriffs have authority or jurisdiction to enforce civil matters. Anyone who enters the property without a consent, a court order, or probable cause is in criminal trespass.
Okay, I've had a lady on by the name of Deborah that has talked about the smart meters, talked about danger. I want to address that and possibly some answers here. Hang on, just a...
Tavares?
Huh?
Mr. Deborah Tavares?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, Deborah's been on my show several times. Hold on just a second. Let